On YouTube. What's up, Raider Nation? I'm Bubba the Raider, coming at you guys tonight. It's the eve before the on-field drills for the combine, and I figured I would do a real quick mock draft, bearing in mind that we're really early in this process. We haven't gone through free agency, and so this will change. I went back and I looked at one of these that I did a few years ago using the same site. I believe it was Pro Football Network. And I made some pretty decent picks, but one of those picks was Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry. Took him in the 5th round. He didn't fall to the 5th round. So people will rise, people will fall. This is not concrete or set in stone. And this is like what I would do based on the limited amount of scouting I've done so far if the draft was tomorrow and I was thrust into the position of making the picks. And free agency hadn't happened, kind of what I would do. You don't really always want to. I'm not going to trade, too, by the way, but you don't always want to draft for need. You want to draft for best player available. And, I don't think it's one or the other. I think you kind of just assess the situation with each pick. And, I'm not in the NFL, but that's kind of how I would go about it. So let's get started, and I'll talk you through my thought process. So let's draft. Cruising right through here. What just happened? I didn't pick a team. That's why. Sorry about that. Hold on. Let's try this again. I'm the Raiders. Let's draft. Sorry if you hear my dog walking around. Okay, I'm not going to trade. Okay, Aiden Hutchinson is on the board. I don't know what that's about. I would for sure take Aiden Hutchinson, but I'm not going to because it's just not realistic. So when I'm looking here, Jermaine Johnson's a guy that's been getting a lot of buzz. I really like some of these corners, and I'm sure they've gone up in here, guys like Ahmad Gardner, right? Andrew Booth, this is crazy. Ultimately, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, I like Nakobe Dean, too. I like the idea of putting Nakobe Dean with Divine Diablo. I like it a lot. But what I'm going to do here is probably my favorite receiver in this class is Treylon Burks. I think he's got a lot of, we'll see what he does tomorrow, but he's got a lot of size and speed and explosion. And so I think we need to get out of the mindset that we only need a receiver who's Henry Ruggs fast. And I think we need to just get into the mindset of bringing in playmakers. And I think he can be that. So I'm going to take Treylon Burks. Okay. 2nd round pick. I think it's important for us if we, again, it just depends on what we do in free agency, but taking a solid corner, taking a solid offensive tackle or guard, taking a solid defensive tackle is where we really need to go if we go receiver in the 1st. And I think McCreary's a guy who a lot of people have projected in the 1st round. But I'm going to take Devontae Wyatt, the other Georgia D tackle. I think he is a guy who might even be better. I don't want to say that because I haven't watched, but better than Jordan Davis. So I'm going to take Wyatt. We need some interior pressure. We need help with the run game, run stopping. So let's see here. Okay, 3rd round. So there's some interesting thoughts here. This is where we get into the point where, in my mind, I like Justin Ross. 2 years ago, he was projected top 5 pick, had injury issues. We've already taken a wide receiver, but I think it could be a position we double dip on. Logan Hall is a guy who's been getting first-round buzz. Again, we might need some more D-tackle help. I haven't watched any Leon O'Neal. So the interesting theory in my head is we've got some guys with some contracts coming up, right? You've got Abram, you've got Furl, you've got Josh Jacobs, you got Max Crosby, you got guys with contracts coming up. Renfro. And the idea of taking a safety is interesting to me. Not that I want to give up on Jonathan Abram, but I kind of like the idea of taking a real rangy, deep ball free safety, like I'm an Oregon guy, like a Verone McKinley, and moving Merrick to the strong safety, even though in this new defense we're going to have two deep a lot. And then kicking Abram, I know people have talked about it forever, but making him a backer. And I think that that's very intriguing to me. But ultimately, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach... Do I like that? The McKinley pick? He's just a ball hawk. Part of me wants to reach here a little bit for Tariq Woolen from UTSA. We need a corner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take McKinley. It's interesting. And that moves Abram to linebacker in my head. Ball hawk in the center of the field, or in the backfield, I should say. Okay. I think that in this draft, in this round, like right around 4 or 5, we're gonna end up going running back. I really do think that, because if you look at what McDaniels and New England have done in the past few years, or for the past forever, it's been a pretty big committee. You've got Josh Jacobs, like I just said, coming up on a contract year. I don't know that they'll sign him or not. I think a guy like a Brian Robinson is a nice guy to come in and spell Josh Jacobs in certain situations, goal line situations. He's a powerful back. And so I think you could ultimately replace, if you needed that same role filled, Jacobs. I'm not saying we need to get rid of Jacobs. I love Josh Jacobs, but someone who could come in and take carries from him that has a very similar skill set. I think that would be the guy. Okay. See, we're in the part where I haven't seen all of these guys. Okay. Marcus Jones right here for Houston. I am going to take him. He is short, almost like an Amik Robertson, but this guy it'll be interesting to see what he runs at the combine. He is fast. He's an electric return man, and I think he could really help our secondary, if anything, just be good depth. So I'm going to take him. And then we turn around, we got back-to-back picks. I don't know about a lot of these guys, but what I do know is I hear a lot of good things about Donovan West. I graduated from Arizona State, but I'm a huge Ducks fan, and I've heard that this kid is just a stud. So I'm going to take Donovan West for some depth in our offensive line. And the beauty is with this, I'm not addressing all of our needs, but you really can't, because we have some pretty serious needs. But that's what free agencies for. You know what I mean? So I think that would be the place to fill in, get a guy to play offensive tackle, because we need a new right tackle. So let's see here. Is there anyone I pound the table for? There is someone that I pound the table for. We're going to reach most likely if he's still on the board. My guy, Reggie Robertson. This kid from SMU, I actually was just looking at this other kid from SMU, Danny Gray, who's big. Robertson is not as big. They're interesting to me, these two SMU receivers. But ultimately, I'm going to go Robertson because he has that speed. He has that. I'll be interested to see what he runs tomorrow, but he has got that extra gear. He's a burner and a half. So I think that's a good place right there for him. Okay, so we took Treylon Burks, Devontae Wyatt, Verone McKinley. We're going to kick him back deep, and we're going to move Abram up to linebacker in this situation. We've got good depth piece for running back that could spell Jacobs, especially with his injury history, and potentially in the future. We got a corner who is super fast and can also be dangerous in the return game. Got a solid offensive guard, and we've got a role player speedster. I think that's a pretty good draft. I think if we were to, this would be a really, really good draft if leading up to it, we addressed the offensive tackle position in free agency and the corner position in free agency and a backup quarterback. I think that this would be an A+ draft at that point, especially here. This isn't going to happen. I just can tell you right now, Treylon Burks is not going to be sitting there at 22. This won't happen either. Devontae Wyatt, I think, is going to be a first-round pick. But it's interesting. So we'll get through this process. We'll get through the combine. I'll do another one of these, kind of see who catches my eye and talk to you guys about that a little bit more. So if you like this video, let me know in the comments. If you dislike it, tell me why. Like it or dislike it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And as always, just win, baby.